Hi, this is Lauren from LSP Actions, and in this video tutorial I'm going to show you how you can add your subject into a digital background that maybe you have created, that you've purchased online, that you've created with AI, anything like that. This is great for maternity, for children's photography, for creative photography, anything like that. I'm going to show you how you can do it with the help of the Add Subject Photoshop actions that are included in the overlay kit. If you missed video 1 where I show you how to download and install the correct version for your version of Photoshop, how to get the actions showing and in button mode, how to use the actions, please do watch video 1. If you're already cool with all this, then let's get started. So we're going to come down here past the shadow overlays, the skies, the glitters, down to the Add Subject. This is really good for pretty much all digital backgrounds. If you're doing newborns into digitals and you find you need a lot more editing layers and a lot more help, you can go across to the LSP Actions website and click onto the digital background editing kit. This is specifically for newborns, and of course this is interchangeable as well. You can use this for other subjects, but this one is really designed for newborns. This also comes with 4 video tutorials, 70 instant paint Photoshop actions, and it has $94 worth of bonuses included, including this limited edition love bowl that you can practice on. So this is really good if you're doing newborns. But if you want to use this set here in the overlay kit that I've made available for you, you can get started with that just fine. You can go ahead and do that. I'm using Photoshop Creative Cloud. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and open the bonus digital backgrounds that I've included for you as a practice in this set, so you can get started, you can edit along with me, and you can use these in your client work. You can use them for whatever you like. Bear in mind, I have created these ones in particular with AI, so you may need to, keep your subject quite large and then make sure your subject is the focus, but they are full resolution. So I'm going to go ahead and open the bonus digitals that I've included with your download. Here they are. I'm going to go ahead and open them up. So you have this white backlit. Let me just make my brush small, it's a little bit large, isn't it? You have the beautiful white backlit here, which you can use, and you also have this dark and moody floral. So 2 very different digitals here for you to play with. So let's get started and use the dark moody floral first. On the Add Subject to a Digital Background, you've got Add Subject Only or Add Subject plus Layers. Add Subject Only is a simple add on Photoshop Creative Cloud. It will make a subject selection for you. Again, you need to zoom in and refine that selection just in case it's not perfect. It really depends on your image and how Photoshop's feeling on the day, really. I find it changes day to day. So Add Subject Only, I'll go and show you that one first, and then Add Subject plus the layers. That's the really cool one. So you're going to need to click this and it will bring up your folders on your computer. You can locate the subject image you want to add in. I recommend editing your subject image first. Don't go straight out of camera. Fix the skin, fix the lighting, anything you want to do so your image is perfectly edited and ready to go. So I'm going to show you how to add the subject only, and then I'll show you after how to add the subject plus these really cool layers. So click on the action and play it. Hit place and locate the image of your subject on the computer. Now what's going to happen is, let me just zoom out a bit, Photoshop is going to bring the image in as an overlay here so you can really resize and decide where your subject needs to be positioned in the image. I'm just going to pop her about here. The light in the digital is coming from the right, the light in my image is coming from the right, so that's fine. But if yours is coming from the left or a different direction, right click and choose Flip Horizontal. To make sure that the light matches. Nothing gives a digital background away more than dodgy lighting, so make sure the lighting matches. When you're happy with your subject's position and the lighting direction, you can hit enter. The action will play out. Because this is Creative Cloud, the Creative Cloud version of the actions, I've got it as a subject selection here. If you're on Elements or an old version of Photoshop, you won't have that subject selection. So what you'll need to do, let me just show you how that'll look. You will need to come in close, grab a brush set to black, and you're going to need to be masking away, painting away. Black means hide, white means show. The reason it's better to use a layer mask, I've provided a layer mask on this one for you, than it is to use the eraser tool, is because a layer mask doesn't actually delete anything, it just hides, a bit like a lottery scratch card, so you can then you can paint it back in. So you can just go ahead and remove any of the background. Make sure you don't have a halo around your subject. A halo is when you have this kind of pale area around the hair. So here we go, just painting that one in. So I recommend getting nice and close to remove the background. So I'm just going to reset that, and we're going to carry on with the Creative Cloud version. Okay. So Photoshop Creative Cloud has made a pretty good selection of this subject so far. If you want to refine that more on Creative Cloud, you can come up here to Select and choose Select and Mask. Grab the Refine Edge brush and you can go around the edges of the hair with this to pick up any loose hairs. You can also use the Refine Hair option. Again, I find that's a little bit hit and miss. It really does depend on how Photoshop is feeling about your image. And when you're cool with that, you can hit OK. Output to layer mask or selection. Output to layer mask will update the layer mask. I prefer output to selection because it means that I can paint this in if I want to, or inverse the selection and paint it away. So now we see we've got really quite a nice hair selection going on there. Underneath this you have paint shadows. This is where you can use a white brush to paint any shadows in underneath your subject. You also have a blur the background. This will blur the digital background behind your subject. If at any point you want to see what these layer masks do, these black ones, just hold down Shift and you get the red X come up to show you the whole image. So what you might want to do is just invert that like this to blur the whole background, or you might want to grab a white brush I'm so sorry if you can hear small people shouting in the background. That will be my twins. Okay, so you can use this and just paint over the background area to blur it. You can also double click where it says Gaussian blur and you can change this level of blur to suit your image. And that's a really cool one. Turn it on or off using the little eye. I've added as much adaptability into these actions as I can. If you think of an option, if you're doing it, you think, oh, I wish I had that, just take a look because it's probably there. I hope it's there. So I'm going to remove these layers for a minute and I'm going to show you how to add your subject using the Add Subject Plus layers where it adds editing layers in. I'm also going to show you how to get some more realistic shading under your subject. So let's go. I'm going to hit and play the Add Subject Plus layers option and hit continue and choose your subject. As you can see, I'm choosing subjects that are really kind of suited to this digital background. I'm not trying to place somebody in that's on a bright pink, pale, light and airy image. I'm already trying to match these two together because that's going to work better. So if you've got a subject and you don't already have your digital background, make sure you get one that's going to suit your image. If you already have the digital background, make sure you shoot for it. Now in this image you can see the light is coming from the left, but in the digital it's coming from the right. So I'm just going to right click at this point in the editing where it's this see-through kind of transparent image and click flip horizontal. Oh, don't click flip vertical. That'll make your subject go upside down. So I'm going to flip horizontal and just position my subject around here. Hit enter or the little check up the top, and what this is going to do is going to create a lot of extra layers to add shadows, shading, blur, also toning, matching the toning, colour changing, brightening, darkening and everything else. So the subject is selected. Underneath this we have the Gaussian blur, so we can add blur to our subject if we want to, like, say, blur the edges or something like that. Underneath this we have add shadows under or behind the subject, this purple layer underneath your subject. So what we can do here is you can squish your brush down a little bit and bring the direction of the brush in the direction you want the shadows to be going. Medium hardness and hit enter. I'm just going to shrink that brush down a bit. You can see here we can create these quite cool shadows that are going in the right direction. I'm just going to create more shading under the shoes here. Just to match with the original. Just squash that down even more. Adding a couple of layers of shadows is a nice idea as well because shadows do generally fade off. I'm just going to blur that in so you can see I'm just playing with this shading layer. going to do, I'm just going to generally darken that digital background using the same shadows layer. I'm going to make my brush nice and big, make sure it's on a low flow, and I'm just going to dab this along. And this is just going to darken that digital background because I really do want that darkness to match with the subject's darkness in the image too. You see the selection isn't the best on this subject, so I'm so sorry my brush is so big. For some reason my video recording is making my cursors huge. So click on the layer mask of the subject, come up to select and choose select and mask. And we're just going to refine this hair by clicking the option and a little bit further refining using this refine edge brush here. Just sweeping this around. So at this point you can really make these adaptations to your selection. Again, if you're using older versions of Photoshop, you can do this manually using a brush on that layer mask. So let's have a look at these layers above your subject layer. You can see all these little arrows mean they're clipped in, so these will only affect your subject. You have Color Blender. This is a nice one to run around areas like the edge, just on the edge of the hair and things like that, just to blend the subject with your background. Above this you have Neutralize Color. This is going to add a white balance to your subject that matches the background, the digital background, so you can sweep this over. Only gently, I recommend, very, very gently. And a black brush hides, white brush shows, black brush hides. Add a touch more shadow under this subject as well. Okay. You also have shadow over the subject. I'm going to add a little bit of that in on this side, just to further match. Remember, black shows and black hides and white shows. So I've got my finger down here, and if you can hear it, on the X key of the keyboard. And can you see over here the black and white are changing every time I hit X. So that's a really good way to quickly edit. I'm going to add a little bit of shading around this side too, just to darken that hair in. Paint the original image texture back in. We don't need to do that, but if, for example, let me show you quickly, if maybe perhaps we've painted a bit of the original floor in to have some of the original shadows of your image, like this, you can paint the original image texture over that floor and use Color Blender to really blend that in, and you can get some of those realistic textures there. Make sure this doesn't go over the skin though. Can you see here it went over the skin, so I'm just going to paint that off. And for our subject, I'm just going to paint this away because we don't want that there. But you can see by using these adapting layers that we can get some of the original shadows back in there, which helps blend your subject. As long as if you can focus on the light direction and the shadows, the rest of compositing will be a breeze. So you can see there, I'm just adding in a little of the original. Just removing that item there. So that's helped blend even more, and by using the Color Blender and the Neutralize, without those we have this blue area here. So with those on, it blends the colours to your digital. Back up here to these layers, you have darken areas. If you want to use a white brush to darken any areas of your subject, you can. Lighten areas, it does the same thing. So if you need to bring any more lighting in, if you're you know, dodging any areas of your image there, you can do. You can turn these on or off to see how you were doing. Warm paint, it warms your subject. Cool paint cools your subject. Contrast, if your subject is looking a little bit bright and airy compared to a dark moody background, you can run some contrast over this. And the matte tone will mattify your subject. So if your subject is very, very bold and the background that you're using has a matte effect, you can run this over to add some matte to your subject. So let's see before and after there. And that's using only those actions, not adding any of my own editing layers in there at this point, only the actions. And you can, of course, mix and match this with your own editing layers. So let's go ahead and add a subject to the white summer room. I'm going to use the Add Subject Plus layers. So on your computer, go ahead and locate the image of your subject that you'd like to add in. And the subject image appears again, so you can resize and reposition this one. So for this light and airy demo that I've given you with this set, your subject doesn't want to be too tiny. You don't want this little mini person in here. You want to make sure that she's nice and big. Also, if your image is shot on a white background and you've backlit, meaning you have some light wrapping around your subject, it's going to be even more believable. So hit enter, and the action and the layers are going to play out, creating all those same layers we've just seen over on the dark digital. I'm going to show you how you can adapt them for a light digital and how they adapt to your image. So you can see here the colour blender and everything is different because it's adapting between the digital and your image. A white brush is selected for you. So for colour blender, going over, make sure that you click on the actual layer mask. Don't do a Lauren and click on the colour blender layer. So I'm just going to dab this over, and you can see it's adding that warmth to those whites, which is quite nice. So it's blending and adapting, neutralising the colour. If you find your white balance in your image is not suited to the digital, you can just dab that over. Colour changer again, you can change any of the colours. I don't recommend blue, people, but if that's your thing, you can go for that. Shadow over the subject. I'm just going to paint a little bit of shadow on here over the dress, because that area would naturally be in shadow, but only a very, very little bit. I'm also going to add a little bit more of this colour blender underneath so that the dress is matching those curtains. Painting the original image in. Again, if you have any areas of your image, for example, if you've done, if you've masked in around the edges a little bit more like this, if you've got a very kind of a big halo, painting the original image texture back in can help you with that, because it adds the original image texture over the top, but it doesn't affect the colours or the toning of your image. Darkening areas like this, you can add some darkness. If your image is very, very light and airy, I recommend that with this one. Lighting areas, again, if your image is too dark, you can add some lovely lighting coming in around the edge. Warmth, if you need to warm up any areas, does what it says on the tin. The same for cooling, if you want to cool down any areas. Oh, that was warm, like this. If you want to add some contrast, this image is already beautifully contrast, but if you need to add a little bit more. And the same for matte, if you would rather mattify your image. I'm going to actually add some matte to the skirt area here. And what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to add a little bit of the original background in just on this floor, just so we get those kind of shadows around the skirt. Remember, white means show and black means hide. And if you're using an older version of Photoshop, you're going to need to mask your subject in. Okay, there we go. That's our subject added into the image. You can blur the background of the digital background here by clicking right underneath your subject, right down the bottom, the blurred background paint on. So I'm just going to grab a white brush, and maybe we'll blur that window area a little more behind our subject to add even more depth there. Entirely up to you. You can double click where it says Gaussian blur and you can add more blur, you can add less, you can play with that if you want to. Entirely up to you, or you can leave the digital background, whichever digital background you're using. It might be one of mine, it might be something you've shot and created yourself, it might be a stock image, it might be something you've bought off Etsy or other sellers, it might be something you've created in AI and Midjourney and Beta and in Discord and any of the AI Pro. It could be anything, and these actions will work to help you adapt and add your subject. So there we see before and after. Really quick, really easy. And this digital background is included in the set for you as a bonus, so you can play with that and create your own images using that one. So I hope that helped. As well as these digitals, you also have extra actions for all overlays. You've got flip and mirror, decrease the yellows, desaturate the overlay, sharpen, blur, intensify and resize. You also have increase the image contrast. You can use this will just go over the top of everything. You have a matte effect for the whole image, which you can paint on to mattify, and you have a bonus vignette which you can add on to. So I hope you love these. I can't wait to see what you create. Please do come over and post in the LSP Actions Facebook group. That's the LSP Actions editing group on Facebook. I'd love to see what you're creating with these. I feel very humbled that you've purchased this set. If you have any questions, please do post in that Facebook group. It's the Facebook user group, so we're all there to help. Can't wait to see what you create. I hope this makes your editing 10 times easier. Just remember, layer masks, black or white. Black means hide, white means show. Use a brush, take it slowly. If anything looks weird, hit the undo key and you'll be absolutely fine. I'm Lauren, thanks for watching.